Hey guys, welcome to Chew on This retention and subscription podcast powered by Stay AI. I'm Gina.
And I'm Pierson, and we're the founders of Stay AI. And we're here to teach you more about how to build profitable and scalable subscription programs on Shopify.
I think what's also important is as we looked at the cohorts past that, we did testing also on order 3 and order 4. What was interesting there is by order 3, your conversion rates, because think about a subscription product, especially like Avi, you're trying to train behavior. Mm-hmm. You're trying to get someone to use that product every day. Yeah. So many times people buy the product, they get it, they use it 2-3 times, they fall off, the second order comes, I have too much product.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of a brand new podcast that we got to start with Stay AI. We're gonna chew on retention and subscription because the entire world is obsessed with acquisition. And we're in a time where retention and subscription is more important than ever. Being able to team up with the founders at Stay AI is something extremely special for us because we're not only users of the product, but also endorsers of the product. And today we have our lovely co-hosts, Gina and Pierson, and I'd love for them to take a few minutes to tell you about what they're trying to build with Stay AI and why they're even here today. So Gina, Pierson, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And we're excited to start a new spinoff with retention and subscription. So tell us a little bit about your guys' self and what Stay AI is all about.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having us. P, you want to go first?
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Pierson, co-founder of Stay AI. So Gina and I met about 7 or 8 years ago. So it's been a long journey getting here to stay. I've been in e-commerce as an entrepreneur for about 17 years now. I had gotten placed at a small ski resort called Mountain Creek outside of New York City with a consulting firm I was working with. Some of you might recognize it from an HBO documentary that was called what?
Class Action Park?
Class Action Park. There's a water park there that is pretty infamous in the 90s. But Gina and I met there. She likes to say we got trauma bonded because I came in as a consultant. I fired her entire team.
11 coworkers in 2 weeks.
Wow. And we kept Gina because she was all gone. Yeah. And we kept Gina because she was really good at retention marketing and really, really talented with lifecycle marketing, retention marketing, and design. So that's how Gina and I initially met. We went on to start an agency called Lunar Solar Group back in 2018. So we're about 6 years into the agency, scaled it up to 80 full-time. And that's how we really got into e-commerce together. I was running the acquisition team. Gina was running the retention team. We started to build technology out of the agency. So first we built a survey company called No Commerce, which some of you might know. And then we ultimately started to build Stay AI in the fall of 21.
Yeah. Well, Pierson gave a quick recap, but what he leaves out of the story every time is that when we were first starting Lunar Solar, he was like, come on, learn Facebook ads, learn acquisition, retention is dead, no one cares about email, stop doing email marketing. And I was like, I'm a retention girly through and through. We're going to need a retention team. And lo and behold, we needed a retention team. So I've stuck to it. And now I think we've come out on the other side, focusing even more on retention than even acquisition with Stay.
Serial entrepreneur, agency owner, you exit another tech tool, and then you get on to founding Stay. And I'd love to understand why and what brought you guys to that point and what really makes it so special.
Well, I think to go pretty far back before even Stay, the reason why we got into technology together in the first place was actually Postscript and our friends Alex and Adam, who are her co-founders there at Postscript. And I had gone to an event for Postscript in Gorgeous years and years ago, and I met Alex and Adam for the first time, and they were singing Gina's praises, and I was like, well, why do you guys like Gina, our team, so much? And they were saying how she had added a bunch of great features to the Postscript roadmap. So after that event, I called Gina. I was like, "Why are we giving free, feature sets, to Postscript? I know we like them, but why are we giving them all these ideas?" So that's what kind of led us down the path of starting to look at building a tech company. And candidly, we started with a company that was going to be a Postscript competitor and in the SMS space years back. It's why we started Stay AI as Retection originally, as that was a legacy name from a project that we had worked on.
Forgot about that.
But yeah. But we
I try to forget about it.
yeah, it was not a good idea.
Not a great name.
Yeah. But nevertheless, we had been a big agency partner of one of the legacy providers in the subscription enablement space for years, and we had done work for nearly 100 brands building subscription programs, helping them acquire customers, building out the actual customer portals, A/B testing, doing all this work on those legacy platforms that are a little bit more rudimentary. And so it really led us when the subscription API came out from Shopify in the spring of 21, I think that was, led us to kind of keep an eye on the market. So we were really looking to start to use some of the new tech that was coming out. Candidly, we weren't super impressed with some of the stuff that was happening in the space, and we really wanted to take a lot of the strategies that we had developed at the agency that really turned subscription into more or less like a channel that you manage, like a performance channel, and take those tactics and strategies and translate them into a technology tool. So that's what led us to ultimately build or start down the path of building Stay.
It's impressive. How many brands are you guys now?
Well over 300.
Yeah.
And like between that and then retention engine, I believe we're powering about 500.
Yeah, about 500 brands. Yeah, we focused more on like that mid-market enterprise side of the market. So, providing some pretty serious tooling, as you guys know. Obvi's been using some of those new features.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, we had our agency for 6-7 years, and there were two legacy options that everybody seemed to just use, right? So we I guess learned how to use those platforms. We onboarded it for every single client, and that was just the go-to, right? We didn't know anything else. I don't think anybody knew of anything else. This was just the standard. And I believe this is when Shopify made the transition into Shopify 2.0 themes. We migrated over, supposedly quicker themes, quicker site speed, everything, right? The one thing that didn't work for us was our subscription widget. We reached out to support for the legacy, option that we were using at the time, and I didn't hear back for about 4 weeks. And we were losing out on subscriptions, right? People were getting charged. They weren't able to manage their subscription, so CS was a nightmare. We were on the plan where if we weren't paying enough to get actual support, like we had to email in. We didn't have a phone number. We didn't have live chat. We had to email. And like that was the most disappointing thing I've ever seen. And especially for something that made up, almost like 20% of our business. To be treated like that was crazy. And I think it was also at the same time, retention back then was popping up everywhere. And it was one of those things where it's like, I really like the new kids on the block and I want to give them a shot. Will I get actual support? And she's like explaining all the features that Retention Now Stay has. And I was like, no, I don't care. Will I get support? Right? And so finally onboarded, we had a actual person walking us through integration and everything. And like from then it was all these legacy tools should be scared.
Yep.
And I think that goes across the board for everything, right? You've seen it with Klaviyo and SendLane. That is what I think triggered us to start looking at subscriptions in a new light, because of what you guys are saying is that subscription should be a performance channel. And we never thought that way until we got to Stay. And then all the features that we'll kind of go over now. But when you guys look at Stay today, you guys have launched so many different features that a lot of these legacy platforms that have been around for years never even thought of. So what goes into making Stay the go-to tool for subscription?
I think so much of it is just like the actual background and like using all these other tools and trying to build these programs out before. Like I say a lot, we're marketers built for marketers. Like we're building this tool so that your marketing team can go in there and truly A/B test things. To me, it was insane that we spend so much time and energy A/B testing everything on ads and email and all these other channels. You have subscribers who come to your website, give you their credit card, say, leave this on file because that's how much I love this product, that I want it month after month. And we're just like, okay, well, like, hope you like that one thing. See you if you try to cancel. Instead of doing anything proactive. Most brands, Avi included, you have like a gateway product, you get somebody in on something, there's a ton of other products across your catalog that you can cross-sell them into, offer things as gifts, do different price testing on cross-sells to see what can we bundle together. Where none of that was happening, and I think we had kind of tried to force it to make it happen in the past with different emails in Klaviyo and sending text and whatever, but it was just so clunky that with Stay I wanted to make sure that we built a tool that made it really easy so the marketing team could own it.
Yeah, I'd say the big shift, right, is those legacy providers were really more fintech companies. They were set up, in all fairness to them, way before the technology on Shopify got to the point where it did. So like they were really just focused on processing a recurring payment, and that's it. And that was what their core DNA is. So it's funny actually. We the one partner that we worked with at the agency a lot we actually pitched what is now Stay's experience engine to them 2 years before we started Stay. And I wouldn't say they laughed us off the call, but they were kind of like, that's silly. Like, we can't build that. That's never going to work. No one would ever want that. No one wants to A/B test stuff.
Right.
No one wants to do any of this. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we were kind of banging our head against the wall at the agency for years, where the tech just couldn't keep up with the strategy that Gina and the team were driving for clients. So that's the big mindset shift, I think, moving from just processing and facilitating those recurring payments to, as Gina said, building a platform that, yeah, can do all that, do it all really well in a stable way too, which is important. So it's not a headache for your ops and CX teams, but also layering all those performance features on top of it to really take those programs to the next level.
I remember the only information we actually had on subscriptions was like how much was coming in, how many people churned, and that was about it. And so it's like, how do we actually fix this? How do we actually get people to stay on for longer? First of all, actually understanding how each type of customer that's coming in, getting a subscription, what product is, leading to higher LTV, what products are increasing churn. That's the information that we need as marketers to obviously create long-lasting subscription revenue, right? I think for us, it's like subscription revenue was heavily correlated to how many customers we were acquiring in that month. People would come in, I want the 15% for saving, but they never stayed on.
That's right.
Right? And it was never growing. It was just consistent. And so I do remember when we first talked about some of the tools where we were A/B testing free gifts.
Yep.
And this was your idea. Mm-hmm. So this is something that actually, I believe, saved churn rate by over 50% from the users that ordered on month 1 going into month 2, right? I think the highest churn rate for us, and I'm sure a lot of brands out there, going from, I'm going to buy this, I'm probably just going to get it just to get that discount for subscribing. And then going into month 2, that's where the highest churn rate is. Yep. And so we're like, Gina, what do we do? Actually, we didn't even ask. We're just like, we're just used to this. Gina's like, here's what you should do. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to go into that whole thing.
Yeah. So we've talked about Experience Engine a little bit. It's a very complex tool. You can do a lot of different things with it, and we'll get into different tips and way to use it later in the season. But for this one, I think number one right off the bat, if you have high churn between order number 1 and order number 2, which 95% of brands do, run an A/B test to see if a free gift will actually cut down on churn there. What happens is somebody subscribes really because they want the discount, and then usually they're kind of churning immediately, or the minute that they get that upcoming order notification of your card is about to be charged, they churn out. What we're doing is not only are we letting them, hey, you have an upcoming order, we're kind of changing the messaging a bit and saying, you have a free gift coming in your order. And that, just the psychology behind you're about to get charged and you have a free gift coming, I think is also just enough to see a bit of change. We did with you guys, I think, a shaker bottle or something, which makes total sense for the product. It's a great gift on second order.
Costs us $1.
Yeah, low cost to you, where when the AOV, is what it is, it make the maths. Even if you're able to get an extra 10% of people to go through and shipping those bottles out. We saw, I think it was, if you were measuring the actual percentage increase, it was over 80%.
Yeah, something crazy.
In terms of success metric.
Something crazy.
Going from the control group to customers who got a gift.
It's like people actually wanted the product.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I think what's also important is so then as we looked at the cohorts past that, we did testing also on order 3 and order 4. What was interesting there is by order 3, your conversion rates, because think about a subscription product, especially like Avi, you're trying to train behavior. Mm-hmm. You're trying to get someone to use that product every day. Yeah. So many times people buy the product, they get it, they use it 2-3 times, they fall off, the second order comes, I have too much product because they're not using it. So by doing a second gift, the shaker bottle, it sits in their cap, they see the branding every day, they use the product more often. Your conversion between 2 and 3 was already so much better than between 1 and 2. We saw them, by offering a free gift, really only increased it about 15%, where we were this probably make more sense to test some type of an upsell here.
It was one of those things that was an immediate unlock of revenue, right? Yeah. It started to, our subscription revenue started to grow instead of plateau/decline. Being able to understand why people were churning too and getting that data, I think that was also a big unlock for us to make sure that for whatever reasons, right? I wanted to know why are you churning? Why are you canceling? Why are you unsubscribing? So that we can fix that problem. Right. You guys had the solution to help us figure that out.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of leads into retention engine, which makes sense to talk a bit about just the tool itself and how we came to get it. I don't know if you want to talk about maybe this one.
Yeah, so when we first launched in 2022, Gina was working on fine-tuning experience engine, which, like we were just talking about, allows for those surprise and delights, upsells, like really kind of a centralized control system, right, for testing all those things. And I did want to note that because we're talking about, obviously a really cool case study for your Avi, but I think as the market shifted, a lot of other providers threw these GWP tools out there without any A/B testing. And I just want to be clear for those listening, like you have to test that because like it was a great, a great test for you guys. It really was instrumental on keeping people around longer and building revenue, but it can go the opposite way too, right? So I think worth cautioning there. But while Gina was building out and fine-tuning experience engine, I was looking around really in ML and AI was something that I was particularly interested in. And this was, I'll give us like a pat on the back, that Stay AI started before the AI craze really took hold, probably about 6 to 12 months later. But we ended up meeting this group called Bellwether, which was doing business as retention engine. Matt Moody was the founder there. And they had been in market with a churn reduction tool for basically plugging on the back end of legacy providers for 4 or 5 years, had 8 ML AI researchers on staff and had built out not just that tool, but actually an entire suite of machine learning algorithms and models that we ultimately adopted into Stay that summer as well. So, we're talking about with the gift with purchase, really kind of proactively cutting down churn. And what Retention Engine does for us is we do those surveys like you had alluded to, where we're asking people why they're ultimately churning and clicking that button in the portal, and then triggering treatments to keep them around. So personalized messaging based off the data we have about them, offers, et cetera. So really kind of cutting down churn in a proactive way and then a reactive way. And then Gina, just while we're talking about it, I think Dunning's the other piece, which is that passive churn.
Even before we move on from the cancellation surveys, I think the big unlock there is, so the cancellation survey, right, in terms of active churn, you go to the portal, you hit cancel. Through the different treatments and whatnot, we're saving at least 20% of those cancelers immediately, which is just great. Like, you're just keeping the revenue, they're not even canceling. If somebody does cancel, at least we have the cancellation reason. So now we know, I just subscribed to get a discount. I have too much product. I didn't like the flavor. All these different reasons, which makes winning back the customers easier. We pass those cancellation reasons to Klaviyo. You're able to, and there's some other really fun stuff coming down the line in terms of win back with Stay. But having those reasons, I think, also makes it so much easier to win those customers back, especially the ones that just have too much product at the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's an easy win-backable customer.
That's right. Yeah. Our products are flavor-based, right? So when you buy, you're just trying that one product. Let's just say you don't like it. It's too sweet, whatever, you're done with it. You're not going to proactively go in, change the product out, and then continue on, right? You're going to be like, I know what's coming next month. I don't want it. Cancel. Like, I don't want to be, anywhere near it. Cancel, but this pop-up comes out. It's like, why don't you want it? Well, we gave the reasons of, I don't like the flavor, I have too much, it's not for me. I don't like the flavor. I hit that button and then boom, you have 3 other options that come up. And it's just so intuitive and it saved us so much money. Yep. Because it's like we have 10 plus flavors that you can choose from. Why not offer that in the most crucial moment of their buying cycle?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that can help you refine your acquisition marketing too, right? Because once you find out that you have a few flavors that maybe are higher churn,
So true.
You're going to focus on those like top 1 or 2 flavors in that initial intro offer, whatever that top of funnel offer was to get someone in subscription in the first place. So, that data can be super valuable to really anyone on the marketing team. And then ultimately, for us at Stay too, we're using all that to refine the algorithms and, use AI to obviously optimize those treatments and ultimately win back as well.
We're not proactive at getting feedback from customers who haven't bought from us in a while, but those who are actively opting into subscription, they want to see results, they want to use the product. Getting that feedback at that point when they're ready to churn, that's great for us on the business level because then we know product roadmap development, what we need to do to improve products. That data overall, sure, they might churn, but that's invaluable for the business later down the line.
That's right. It's fascinating because I forget who it was, but it was someone that we had spoken to either on the pod or one of these conferences. They had said we spend $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70 to acquire customers. And on the back end, on retention end, we expect, through an email or an SMS, you're just going to reacquire them. And I think where like you guys led that shift was, if you have to actually spend time on reacquiring someone or resubscribing someone or what it is or what it may or may not be, you may need to spend on a tool like Stay AI, and you may need to power things like free gifts or testing or whatnot. And it should cost you. I think this is what they had said. It should cost you money to reacquire a customer, because if you're getting it too easy, then there's also things that you maybe are going to start assuming on your business, and you're not going to actually learn. And I think the part to just how you guys built product is the fact that you're actually putting in the effort to treat retention as the only channel. If acquisition wasn't there and you just had to keep making money off of the people you have, right? How hard are you gonna work? You're gonna bust your ass. You're gonna literally try anything and everything that each person stays. And no pun intended. But I think that part is where you guys really, I think, changed the narrative of how things need to be done, and then also obviously rattled some legacy providers and saying, hey, no, yeah, you're right. This shouldn't be assumed, right? A tool cannot just convert someone. And then lastly, I think just on one other note is like, from your guys' end of being who you guys are, which is running an agency, creating a tool that with like a no-commerce, right? And having the backgrounds you guys have, I think people sometimes don't realize, and not knocking any other tools out there and the founders of their tools, but the background you come and build something so important with is also just as important, because the way you're going to look at your tool is now through 3 other lenses, right? Through the brands on your agency side, what are they struggling with? Through what you guys built with no commerce, this was to learn more. And now how you're building Stay is like, all right, let's drill down deeper, because all these things, they've now become prerequisites for you. Whereas where other people were building these tools or maybe competitive tools, those things are maybe like golden childs for them. We're like, oh wow, I created this way to figure out more about your customer. It's like, no, you have to know that. That's part there.
Well, and it cuts across the whole business too, right? Because you're talking about product, but earlier, we were talking about service, right? So having built a service business for 6 years, I mean, for us, that's just as important. How are we going to onboard merchants? How are we going to drive their strategy and really help them get the most out of the feature sets? And then, beyond that too, how are we going to build the right partner programs? How are we going to work with other agencies and really help them adopt, next generation technology and build better retention programs for their customers as well? So yeah, it really bleeds into every aspect of how we like to build as serial entrepreneurs now, all those experiences.
Absolutely.
There's one thing I always think about, and with the rise of these tools that are coming out, started with like Triple Whale, then SendLane, and then even Stay, right? The founders that have built these tools originally started, maybe running a brand or an agency, and there was a problem. There was an inherent problem that they had when they were trying to carry out their business, and they needed a solution for it, right? Jimmy at SendLane did the same thing. They ran an email agency. They're like, we don't have the features we need, so we built it, right? Triple Whale, they needed an analytics platform. They needed it. They built it. And you guys have come from that background of, we ran an agency, we were doing retention marketing. We don't have a proper subscription platform. So you guys built it, which is amazing. Those are the people that I trust.
Yeah. Well, it also comes down to money too, funny enough. Yeah. So we haven't really talked about this, but it's worth noting that the types of tactics and strategies that brands want to do a lot of times are cost prohibitive. Because when you go to me as an agency a few years back and say, hey, we want to A/B test the portal, I say, great. I charge you a few $1,000 for every one of those split tests, right? And we all know this, acquisitions can where people spend a lot of their money and resources. So the idea of giving, say, the retention marketing team dev time, right? Even just that to customize out and A/B test a portal, those resources aren't available to most retention marketers. So it came down to, not just that, but also understanding what the P&L for a brand looks like, and the fact that those teams are under-resourced and need those automated features so they can actually execute the strategies cost effectively.
I think one of the worst things I can hear, like had to hear from a brand and be like, yeah, no, that's going to be in the next sprint, or we're trying to get into the next sprint. Like, let us worry about the sprints.
Yeah.
Like, your internal brand should not be putting the stuff that you need for your subscription program in a sprint.
Yeah.
Like, the tool should be able to be run by you.
Yeah.
Well said.
Good point. So before, I went from literally having zero information of what was going on in our subscription program, other than, hey, this revenue is coming in, great, right? To now having this insane amount of data that I need to comb through, and this is one of the questions I want to ask you guys, but you guys have built like a world-class dashboard when it comes to subscription data, to the point where some of even your competitors, legacy competitors, have taken a page out of your guys' book. Which is great, right? Imitation is flattery, right? So I think, tell me, like, for me, numbers are great, but for the marketers that less analytical, less number savvy, what are some of the data points that you guys have in there that are crucial for helping build out subscription revenue?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first designed the dashboard, I think what I tried to do is, again, I've run so many of these programs over the years, you kind of start to understand what are the important levers. What do we need to be looking for in the data? You don't want just like data overload of all these different charts. We have to export things and put things into different places. Like, you need to be able to log into somewhere and just within like a quick glance, are things going well or are things going badly?
Right.
So with Stay, I think like one of the small like enhancements we've made on the dashboard that, you know, that came out probably 2 years ago now at this point, was just like all of the little indicators of like up, down, like over the last 30 days, like is retention up or down? Is
green arrows, the red arrows.
Yes, the green
That's
arrows,
all I
the
need
red arrows.
sometimes.
It is though, because you just log in and outside of the numbers, knowing that you did $200,000, is that more or less than you did last month?
Yeah.
And is it because you spent a ton on ads and the new subscription revenue is up, like really inflating that number? Or is your retention up? Did you have a really successful, add-on campaign that's doing well? So we kick off the dashboard with those key metrics, little indicators on them that just, again, you load the dash, you look in a second, you're like, all right, we're either pacing up or pacing down to what we were doing last month, and this is why. Then as you go through the dashboard, we try to highlight different things. And I think like one of the most underrated pieces is the risk analysis graph, which you've seen it. I think it's what should drive all of what you do in Experience Engine. But you're allowed to look at, by either order number, days subscribed, or lifetime, like the amount of spend that somebody has had. What is their churn risk, even down to the product they're subscribed to? And one of my favorite things to do is when brands have a larger product catalog is to look at what are the top 5 sticky products and what are the worst performing products for subscription. Because if you're spending all of your money acquiring customers on the least performing products, we better have something, like you said in the cancellation survey before, like when somebody doesn't like the flavor or whatever, we better make sure that we're getting them on a swap when they go to cancel, or doing something for them, giving them a free sample even on the first order of another product if they come into that, so that way they know there's other options. So I think that's probably one of the most underrated. There's a ton of other metrics that we look at, like new subscribers acquired, how many people are reactivating, what's the churn risk, and then one of my personal favorites on our churn dashboard is, I don't know if you've gotten to play with this one yet, but it is the cohort graph, where you're able to load in 2 different types of like metrics and then see how they're performing side by side. And so like we've got lifetime orders, lifetime order value, subscription retention, all of these different metrics that you can basically look at, whether it's dollar, percentage amounts, side by side, to just see how the different groups are performing, which I think can be really helpful.
And for us, I mean, given that we understand the full scope of marketing, right, like acquisition through retention and everything in between, we're always looking to add pieces to that dashboard so that every team can work together in a way that's going to push and grow the program, right? So
That's right.
For us on the agency side, if you rewind 4 or 5 years ago when we were doing A/B tests in these portals, we wanted to see how people use the portals. So we had used various tools, A/B testing tools, et cetera, heat mapping, to see how people are interacting with the portal. So we have portal interactions built in, right? So we are the first provider to stick that in there.
Smart.
To me, that's a no-brainer, right? Because CX and maybe your CRO, whoever's running that, they want to see how are people actually interacting with the portal. Should we move buttons around? Should we change copy? Should we change layout? Which, for our platform is all drag and drop for the most part. So you could make those changes pretty quickly and adjust how people are interacting. And then on the cohort side too, I mean, you have your retention team in that dashboard. Typically, that's going to be who's leading a subscription program. But I always laugh because you should have your acquisition team, right? So a lot of people outsource media buying to an agency.
Yep.
Agency comes back, says, hey, we cut the acquisition cost by 50%.
Yeah.
You look at those cohorts that they acquired, though, and they're acquiring them with this huge discounted offer. They all churn, so it's worthless revenue, right? So going back to the cohort analysis, right? It's looking at, are those new cohorts, coming in through funnels that actually make sense long term, not just optimizing for an acquisition cost, but optimizing for an LTV to acquisition cost or a contribution margin acquisition cost, like those sorts of ratios, and really using the full data available to quarterback that greater marketing effort, and not just the lifecycle management once you have the subscriber in there.
That's right.
I think something else also on the cohort side of things that a lot of people don't realize is that we call them like zombie subscribers. And it's like when somebody is active, but they just keep skipping or they push the order date out so much. So what I noticed in a lot of the platforms was that the cohort charts were actually just done based on if the customer was still active, not if they were purchasing every month, which is why it's so important to know what you are looking at in your cohort graph. If you're just looking at percentages and it's just if the customer is still active versus if they're coming back and purchasing, which is why we really pushed when we did our churn graph to have all these different metrics that you could drop down and see. Like not only are they just staying active, maybe in like a dead state where their next order is a year from now, but are they actually spending money month over month, and are they starting to spend more money and adding more products?
I see Ash every day in the cockpit of acquisition, right? So, but when you look at it from what he's looking at, which is, all right, I'm gonna run these ads, I'm going to track this traffic, it's gonna come at this cost with this ad, and then they're gonna get to this landing page. And then they're gonna take this action. Some may take this action, some may leave, some may add to cart, some may initiate checkout, some may purchase, okay? And he knows from the minute he runs an ad till somebody checks out or doesn't, almost everyone's journey. And on the acquisition side, that is a very normal thing to know. Now, some people know it better than others. That's what makes a great marketer versus a good marketer. But on the retention side, it was always just this big, like kind of like you mentioned, it was just a big conglomerate of information, and you kind of just like parsed out, which was like, all right, did you buy again? Cool. And then if you didn't, like, okay, we're probably gonna get you to sunset soon if you don't buy, if you don't, and it was this behavior that started through kind of email, right? That trained people to be like active and not active, open versus click. And the truth is, I think the way you guys have approached, again, retention and subscription is from the lens of how a marketer acquires people. You're training people to really understand, hey, why isn't your customer taking this action? Or why does your customer keep something in cart, right? Which cart in your suggestion may be, hey, you just keep pushing something off, but you're not taking it out, right? You're pushing it off for another 2 months. Why are you doing that, right? And do you know that that's even happening? And I think that knowledge base, to be honest, we get to talk to so many founders, thanks to Chew on this, and out these founders, there's so many people that just don't even look at this side of it. And whether you use Stay or not, right? I mean, that's obviously your prerogative, but not using a tool that doesn't give you that type of clarity, I think that's where you'll miss. That's where founders are missing retention.
Yeah, and this is actually a funny tidbit, but the only real friction point that we've repeatedly had when we migrate folks off of other providers is actually the data infrastructure is so jacked up on those legacy providers that they come on our platform, gets cleaned up, gets put into real reporting. They say, oh my gosh, I lost 20% of my active subscribers. And we're like, you never had them. They've just been showing up in your reporting for 2 years. They never existed. Right. That's not real. So it's pretty funny because it's actually, that bad.
Zombie subs.
Yeah, I'd say 1 in every 10 or 20 migrations that we do, someone calls us up freaking out and we're like, hey, look, like here's the side-by-side. You're just looking at bad data, unfortunately.
Close
and they think
out
you
your
guys
max
messed up.
retries. That's
exactly.
like if you can take one thing, make sure that you are closing out max retries. When people go into Dunning, some of the other app, like it's not a default or it's a setting, but they'll just keep the subscriber active. So like they'll have failed, had 5 or 6, 7, 10 like failed charges 2 years ago and no successful charge, but they're showing up in the active subscriber count.
Yeah.
That should be illegal.
Yeah. I know we've given quite a few examples from Obvi and the success we've had since we've made the migration from legacy to Stay. But you guys have incredible brands, right? With Retention Engine, up to 500 brands that you're working with in a short amount of time. Stay hasn't been around, 10 plus years or anything. So in a few years, you guys have worked with some incredible brands. Some are household brands that many of us know. Give us a couple more examples of who's doing great, and maybe a couple of hacks that they've figured out through Stay.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my favorite case studies that we did, and this actually is more on the acquisition side of things, but there's a lot of retention that goes into it, was something with Curie, so natural deodorant. And they were looking, so they kind of were like,
shout out to Sarah, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to Sarah. This was great.
Great founder.
Their team
She's
really
awesome.
crushed it. They came to us with a problem. They were like, we have to raise prices. We want to do something for our subscribers. We want to make sure that they get locked into their thing. What can we do? We want to kind of do a campaign around this. And they did a campaign to their whole email list, everything. I think they ran it for 2 weeks, even on site. If you subscribed before the price increase, they let everyone know it was happening. You got locked in to that price. So everybody who was like, oh, I don't really want to subscribe, whatever, they saw such a boom. I think it was the subscription program grew 120% or something like that. Wow. It was wild, and it really just kind of catapulted them into this next stage of what they needed to do for their subscription program. And just the feedback was so good. So I thought that was really clever. It was really good marketing. They announced that the price increase was coming. They said what you had to do to keep your price, and it just really drove a ton of their customers into being subscribers.
Yeah.
And then we kind of helped them on the back end set up, the different selling plans to make sure that those customers would be protected over time and be able to keep the old rates.
Yep.
So I thought that was a great, just kind of quick success story for anybody who might have to potentially raise prices in the future. It doesn't need to be messaged as a negative, as long as you can keep your old subscribers on the legacy pricing or give them some type of incentive, meet them in the middle, even if you have to raise it a little bit.
That's such a hack.
Yeah.
Because we had a campaign where we did increase prices just because inflation, our costs went up.
Yep.
Right? And I'm sure that the same had happened for multiple brands, but never told them to lock it in on subscription.
Yeah.
Well, next time.
Missed opportunity. Can't keep increasing prices.
Let's make sure
We
we
need
watch
to increase
this.
the prices next week.
Watch this episode and remember to do this.
We could try for coffee.
Yeah, drive for coffee.
Yeah.
I think Olipop's another good one too.
Yeah.
So we've been fortunate to work with the Olipop team. I think I met them the first Expo West they ever attended. So it was I think it was me, a few consultants, and 3 or 4 employees at the time. And David and Ben have just built a fantastic business there, right? And everyone in CPG, I think, has watched how they've managed to build their community up over the years, right? Really first movers, I think, in a lot of social tactics, influencer, the way they do sponsorships, et cetera. And so we were really fortunate to have them join the platform, kind of in the early days of Stay, and really watch them push the limits of how to build community and leverage our in-portal banner for limited time offers, flavor launches, really building up hype with those subscribers, making them feel special. And I think that's important when you think about what role does D2C play for a larger CPG brand, right? If you're in tens of thousands of doors across the country, what is that subscription program really for? Because it might not be a huge chunk of your revenue when you're in every store in the country, an Olipop or a Vita Coco. So for them, I think it gives a really good avenue to interact with those super fans, with the top customers, with people that have been loyal for a long time. And Gina, you can speak more maybe on the tools, but the importer banner and that ability to message there and tell a story and make those folks feel really special and part of that Olipop community, I think is a really key use case.
Yeah, their case study is also one of my favorites. So they moved over from another provider, and within 90 days, and this is a good, healthy subscription program that was kind of it was growing. They move over to us, and just the revenue pop. 30% subscription growth within 90 days. And then they were able to maintain, but the big unlock for them was they do a lot of limited time flavors that aren't available on subscription. But that doesn't mean that your subscribers shouldn't get early access and shouldn't get the subscriber discount on those products, which wasn't possible through any of the other platforms.
That's brilliant.
The way that we integrated with the Shopify product catalog, we enabled them to basically let customers through their customer portal add that new product just as a one-time add-on to their upcoming order and get a discount on it without having to duplicate a product or anything like that.
And having to worry about getting it multiple times,
Yep.
just one time.
Yep, just comes one time. So they started doing these campaigns where they would do quick actions. They would email all the subscribers. They'd even email customers and say, we have a new flavor dropping. subscribers are going to get it first. Only current subscribers are going to get this. They would build up the subscribe because people wanted it. They have such a good fan base and such good customers. People would become subscribers so that they could get these new flavors and they'd have them in hand before they even launched on the website or in store.
That's crazy. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That story alone, I mean, it's like this is what the point of like case studies and stuff is, like sharing that, because even that inspires like a few people to rethink their approach on, because innovation now is the new like counter to acquisition cost rising. And so it's like you can't just innovate and then not have a way and a plan to execute on it. So that's incredible. I think to first of all, the fact that this is an intro episode and you just dropped this much value, it's incredible. But I think it'd be great to wrap up on a point around where, you know, for some reason there's still brands out there that are not making the switch to stay, which is fine, right? We'll figure that out. But yeah, I think what would be really cool to understand is you guys are, I think, led by tech in nature. You want to keep building and you want to keep producing the product to be better and better and better. What's next? What's coming for Stay AI? What, you know, if there are brands who have been on the fence, or brands that are considering it, what should they be ready for in terms of what you guys are creating next?
So we have 2 new things that I'm very excited about well, we have a lot of new things, but 2 major features that I'm very, very excited about and like hesitant to talk about because they won't be live by the time this comes out, but they'll be in the works and close. We'll have announced that they're at least coming to our customer base by then. So this is an early tip if you're seeing this. But around 2 different things. One is around, so we talk a lot about Experience Engine, digital punch cards.
Oh.
So we know that getting a gift on order number 2 works because the customer, once they've made the first purchase, is now alerted of it. Imagine think about the cart think about the bar that's in your cart, where it's like, just get to this milestone, you just get this much further, just get that, where that sitting in the portal, you go in, you're on order 2, you're kind of like, you're like, oh, but in 2 more orders, I get a duffel bag. Or like in 2 more, I get a whatever.
That's so good.
And so making that more visual. So I'm very excited about that.
Wow.
That'll be
And nobody has this yet.
No, this is not done.
We've been quiet for the last, I'd say, 6 months. I mean, I'd say we're probably still 6 to 12 months ahead of the next closest platform in terms of people have like tried to do like the gift with purchase, right? But compared to Experience Engine, they're at like 10%, right, of the feature. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, just genuinely, right? And so given that we're kind of leading the way in terms of innovation, we've been really quiet because our process is really based on MVP testing. So like what Gina just said about punch cards, like awesome, right? That sounds great. But what's really cool, you know, going back to acquisition is, okay, we've already tested, and I'm sure you can imagine, if you show that punch system on an acquisition landing page as part of your intro offer before someone's even on subscription, that's going to really help conversion rate, right? Because they're not just getting the starter kit, the discounted starter kit. They're seeing that whole, 6-month life cycle or whatever it is that we've mapped out for them, and all the cool aspects of joining the subscription program outside of that 15% off and free shipping offer that you're typically going to see.
It's amazing.
So yeah, it's, as Gina said, it'll be coming out here in Q2, but it's something that we're not just releasing right out of the gate without having tested the underlying strategies, right? And that's how our innovation process works, is figuring out where those pain points are for folks in the marketing mix, figuring out the right strategies and tactics from a service, perspective to start, and then productizing it.
Yeah.
So,
and knowing you guys, I think you're going to keep UI UX at the front of this. So
it has been in refinement for like 7 months now.
Yeah.
Like it has been in the refinement process for so long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you can share, or
we have
give
one more? So like punch cards, very sexy. A lot of curb appeal on that one. We talked a bit about cancellation before, and obviously we've got, the AI powered engines. We were looking at the platform and we were like, where's there a win where that you can apply AI? Like, what we don't need anything crazy, but where can we optimize where we get, 20, 30, maybe 40% like higher success if we were able to be a bit smarter about when we retry these things. And I think dunning is like one of the pieces where the super sophisticated brands pay attention to it. They realize that 15 to 20% of their charges every day are going into failed billing, and the rest just don't realize it. It's just like this leaking part of the funnel where the orders are queued up. The person doesn't want to cancel, and then the charge just doesn't go through because of any number of reasons. But there is a finite amount of reasons that cards don't go through dependent on the payment processors you've used. We've done a ton of research into these different reasons and found that there are certain cancellation metrics that should be retried either immediately, either 1 day, 5 days, certain days of the week, certain times of day, dependent on when you've had success. So you plug something like that into an AI model, it's able to just optimize and optimize and optimize. So we're pretty excited about what we have coming out for that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, for those that don't know, a lot about Stay, we're using like live learning models. So the more data that feeds into it, we're doing it based on an individual merchant, and also aggregate models that are collecting all that data, like Gina said, looking at it and finding those wins that give that extra lift. And yeah, while Gina's talked about a couple of her favorite upcoming features, we've been also playing a lot with acquisition. So I'll tease that, and as we get into more of the episodes here with you guys, we'll talk more about how to acquire the right customers, how to drive acquisition costs down. And for us, that's like the next frontier really for Stay. We've provided all these great tools, ML-powered tools, lifecycle management, churn reduction, et cetera. The next set of features are really oriented towards how do we help that media buyer, that acquisition marketer, acquire more subscribers effectively. So there's a lot that we're really excited about there in terms of overcoming reasons not to subscribe pre-purchase. And ultimately optimizing those intro offers. Again, looking to do that in a cost-effective way, right? So
you can tell the Gina features versus the Pierson features.
No, it's I mean, just everything you guys just mentioned there. If it wasn't already reason enough to obviously become more intentional with your retention and subscription programs, with what you have coming, it's really exciting. But also just goes to show that you guys are nowhere close to being done. So that's super powerful.
Started. Yeah, just getting started.
One shoe from each of you. One thing that you want viewers and listeners to take away and implement in their business when it comes to retention marketing, besides switch to Stay AI. What are those? What's that one thing?
For this episode, my one thing is A/B test, free gift, second purchase. Look at the results.
If you can.
If your platform allows you to actually look at the results of an A/B test. Please, the results are really important. You need to make sure that the cost of the gift, if there's additional shipping to put that gift in the box, all of that really does make sense per whatever your AOV is and the amount of customers that you actually are winning over with it.
Love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'd say for me, we talked about this really briefly, but it's making sure that you're tying together that acquisition effort and the retention effort, and there's no finger pointing there, because the reality is looking at those cohorts based off the offer, the discount, et cetera, that they came in on is so critical. And we see it happen time and time again with even very sophisticated merchants that you wouldn't expect it from, where they're doing these offers that just simply aren't working. And it's not durable revenue, it's not quality revenue, it's frankly just a waste of media dollars, right? So that would be it for me, is making sure you're looking at those cohorts and their performance post that first purchase, and that acquisition marketer or that media buyer, whoever's running that, is really paying attention and part of that conversation.
Chew on that.
If you want more from us, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and check out the website chewonthis.io.